It's me, James. Happy Monday to you all. This is going to be the Oracle Outlook for the week ahead, the week starting Monday, February the 17th. It is Monday morning as I'm filming this, and we are just going to get right into it. This week, I'm going to be using one of the decks that I personally made that is part of my personal deck collection, and the deck is the Mitchell Playing Card Tarot. This is a deck that I made that is foundational to my personal cartomancy practice. I said a couple of weeks back when I used it the first time for this month that I had a dream in which I was in a school, a classroom, and I saw a house of cards on the floor, spotlighted on the floor, and when I picked the cards up, they were a combination of tarot and playing cards. And since that dream, this was way back in the day, so probably around 1999, maybe 2000. After I started my card reading practice in 1999, that was like a follow-up dream, because my initial dream was I was reading with a deck of playing cards, and that got me into the art and practice of card reading, generally speaking, and so that was a follow-up dream I had. And then the tarot and the playing cards combined became my foundational deck. So this deck has special personal meaning for me, and so I'm happy to get to use it on camera. So with that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and shuffle the deck, and I'm simply asking what information, insight, guidance is going to be offered through the cards for the week ahead. In my personal practice, I shuffle at least 5 times, one for each of the elements, and that is earth, air, fire, water, and spirit. So now I'm going to go ahead and cut the deck. I'm going to fan out the cards. And now I'm looking at the fan, and I'm looking for 5 cards that are getting my attention. So I have the 5 cards selected I'm going to work with, taking the remainder up, and I'm going to move that to one side. So now we're going to line up the cards, because I'm working with a line of 5, which these days is one of my go-to layouts. Alright, so we have the cards lined up. So now we're just going to read the cards from left to right, and for me each card has a positional meaning. So the first card on the far left is the origin card, and it is a card that can talk about a potential situation that is unfolding, being the first in the line, or it could represent why the question that is being asked is being asked. So the card is, okay, so here we have a major arcana card. This is card 13, and so this is a nod to the Tarot de Marseille. In the Tarot de Marseille, the death card, so I'll just say it's a death card, is not named death. It's called the card with no name, and it is just numbered 13. So I went with that because I'm also in tarot. I read with the Rider-Waite Smith tradition. I started with the Crawley-Toth tradition and then kind of moved over to Rider-Waite, and then I moved to Tarot de Marseille, which is closest to the dream I had in terms of cards, because the major arcana cards are illustrated and the minor arcana cards are more like playing cards. So I stuck with that. I wanted to kind of give a nod to Tarot de Marseille, but in my image here, I call this like the transition. I wanted a softer image for the death card. So I'll hold it closer to the camera so people can see it better possibly. So here we have a bridge, right? I was going with the idea that a bridge is a transition symbol because it gets you from one place to the next, right? And so I went with that, and I went with the bridge looking kind of faded out so you don't know what lies ahead, right? So this is a major arcana card, like I said, and so with that in mind, major arcana cards carry more weight in a reading when they appear. So this can signify that a major event is unfolding, an important event or issue is unfolding. So this card, number 13, is all about change, and so it suggests undergoing a major process of change. It can also come up with the message about letting go of the past, but with the bridge being faded out, it can also represent a possible fear of the unknown that's associated with changes. But this card can represent changes, transitions, things like that, and the element of the unknown that is with those changes. Now, this could also represent endings and completions. So in a more mundane sense, it could be that we are being encouraged to complete certain things in our life or to bring things to their natural state of conclusion or closure, right? And so I'm filming this on President's Day. And so I'm holding the card up, and as I say closure, it made me think of all the institutions that are closed on this day. So I'm thinking like schools being closed, banks being closed. And then I'm also thinking of, in light of what's going on in the world landscape externally, I'm also thinking about, terminations, right? This can be a card of termination. So what do we need to terminate? But I'm also thinking about people who are being terminated, and that would be from their jobs, from their employment, things like that. So this is a big deal card. So it represents, for all of us, going through a major process of change, undergoing a major process of change. It could be that things are ending, things are coming to a state of conclusion or completion. This could also be what's coming to me before I put the card down, that there may be a need for some things to be finalized, right? Because this card can be about finality. Now, it can also suggest that if something's coming to an end, it's creating the space for something new to come in, right? In some decks, in some traditions, this is not just a death card, but it's also known as death and rebirth, right? So there is that as well. Now, I will say, for me, the symbolism of a bridge can suggest a couple of things. It can also suggest a need for reconciliation. So I'm putting that out there for some people who that might resonate with, excuse me. But this is the bridge is a symbol of reconciliation. Okay. So I'm going to set that card down. So now that is the origin card, right? And so if I go with the idea, like why we're asking the question we're asking, so if I'm just asking a general question, like what insight, what information do we need that's going to help us best move through this week, then this is offering the idea, can we handle change? What do we need to know about the way we view and move through change? I personally was a person who had a difficult time with change, so I just put this in there because it might resonate with people. I had a difficult time with change because I was always fearing or anticipating or expecting the changes that were being introduced or presented to me to be not in my best interest. Right? That they may be serving other people, but the changes weren't going to serve me in any way. So I always had some resistance to change, right? So if you're like me, you may be like I used to be. That's how I used to be. I'm getting better, but that old me still comes up every now and again, right? So it could be like, if you are resistant to change, what could you do about that? Because again, this is a big deal card, right? So sometimes the major arcana cards talk about our inner work or our psychological work or unconscious work, things like that. So I would say that all about the card number 13. Now let's move on to this position. This is expectations. So it could be showing what we could possibly expect. So here we have another major arcana card, and I love this. So here we have the Magician. I'll hold the card up closer because I really love this image for the card. So the Magician is about job and employment. So I find it interesting that I was talking about termination of job and employment. Here we have a card that one of its meanings is job and employment. And with that in mind, the Magician is also about our gifts, our talents, our abilities. So there is an expectation to put our talents, our skills, our abilities to their right and perfect use. Yeah? So for people, if they are facing termination with job and employment, you get to ask yourself, what do I get to do with my gifts, my talents, my abilities, my skills, right? This would be about transferable skills if you're going to be out seeking new employment, right? And with that in mind, then the Magician is also a marketing card. So it's to be about selling yourself, right? If you're going on the job hunt, the job search, first and foremost, I'm sorry for those who are having to do that, having to face that, because that can be a pretty tough space to be in for some, and sometimes. But it's really about selling yourself, right? The Magician is about like marketing, advertising, promotion. So this could be about self-promotion, right? I'm reminded of when I was in management that I would always ask the individual, like, what would you potentially bring to my department? And, looking to hear what kind of skills they possess or what characteristics they thought would help improve my department. So there is a sense of that. Now, the Magician is also about willpower and determination, right? So if we are undergoing a major process of change, then this card is suggesting, having the willpower and the determination to move through those changes. Now, this is key with this image. He is holding the Ace of Spades. In my system that I have cultivated, and so I've talked about that in prior videos, what my three main sources, as well as my own experience reading the cards over these years has been. So that has become, those three sources, have become the foundation of my practice. And then, of course, I add and build onto it with my own personal experience. But he's holding the Ace of Spades, like I was saying. And the Ace of Spades is also known as the Death card in some circles, in some spaces, right? So here we have this signal. He's holding that card. So we have this signal, again, about how do we handle, right, the hand holding the card. How do we handle change when it shows up? Right? It reminds me of that old adage that there's only one constant in life, and that is change, right? But the Ace of Spades can also be about, like, with that change, with those endings, this is about, reconstructing or rebuilding your life. So I'm going to go ahead and set the card down. So there's a lot to say about that. So again, this is about, willpower, determination. It could be about your talent, skills, abilities, your skill set, especially if you are facing major changes within your current employment situation, right? Especially if it's coming to an end somehow, some way, that kind of thing. But if you are still employed, it could also be about, facing major changes within the job that you currently have, right? Now, it could also be that some people are making the change to self-employment, right? Again, with this card being number one and the one being about the self. So this card can also be not just job and employment, like working for the man, but also self-employment. You are doing your own thing. So there may be a change or transition to that. So it could either be people are moving into that space, that sphere, as a result of, leaving a job situation, or they are returning to it, right? I said this is also about reconciliation, about returning to it, right? And there still may be elements of the unknown and fears that you have to move through about the process of change, but having the willpower and the determination to do that. Now, the only other thing I will say about the Magician card, and this is more esoteric, one of its meanings, the Ace of Spades in the Magician card, and that's why I love this image, because he's holding, the Magician is actually holding this card. This is known as the Order of the Magi card, the Ace of Spades. So this could be a literal nod to people who practice magic. And I'm not talking about the stage magic, the illusion type of magic. Now, I will say it in this regard. I'm going to hold the card up because now I'm really jazzed about this part of the message that's coming through. So, when I'm talking about this stage magic, the illusion magic, that kind of magic, that could be like one of the quote-unquote negative aspects of the card, because the Magician in the negative context can be like the snake oil salesman kind of archetype, right? So that would be like, having something under your sleeve, not being honest with your salesmanship, your marketing, your advertising, right? So it could be like people who are putting out or selling false goods, right? And I'm talking, that could be in the literal sense, but I'm talking more metaphorically, right? So there is that. But what I'm talking about is people who practice magic, actual magicians. So this could be ceremonial magicians, this could be witches, sorcerers, mages, things of that nature. People who practice magic. So the Ace of Spades in this regard would be esoteric and mystical wisdom, right? It could be also about, joining societies who practice magic. So in some circles, that could be like secret societies or covens or what have you, groups of people who get together to practice their magic, right? So I wanted to really share that with those who are magical practitioners of any stripe, right? So this could be about you working your magic, right? And it could be that maybe if I go with this and lean into this aspect a little bit more, then it could be like there are some changes that are taking place with people's magical practices. If they are ceremonial magicians, changes with that. Or if they are witches, some aspect of their craft is changing. Or is that they're turning to their magic to handle and process changes that are taking on, that are happening externally, right? So I'm seeing that. I'm just taking a step back to see if there's anything more I want to say about that aspect. Yeah. So I'm going to leave that there. The only other thing I could say to people who are maybe not magical practitioners, in some circles they're called the mundanes, right? So for those people who don't practice magic, it would be about, you working your magic. And again, that's just a euphemism or a metaphor for your gifts, your talents, abilities, right? Okay, so we have two major arcana cards, so that continues this idea about important issues or events that are unfolding over the course of the week. So now the third card is the heart of the matter. It is the central issue or the focus, or sometimes what I call the hidden influence. So let's see what this card is. And here we have, another major arcana card. So when I get, so that right now it's the ruling majority, right? Because it's 3 out of 5. So as the ruling majority here, this would indicate important issues or events unfolding, for sure, but also too, needing to look at life or things that are happening with a higher level of awareness. And so that's a nice segue into the actual card. So this is the world. Since I've been holding the cards up, I'll do that with this one. So this is the world, and the world, one of its meanings can be a higher level of awareness, right? So it can represent, just like card number 13, that things are coming to an end or completion. One of its meanings is the successful completion of a cycle or a chapter, right? And then you get to ask the question, what have I learned? Again, higher level of awareness, right? So I talked about this the last time the world showed up. So if people are being terminated from job and employment issues, then the world card can be about retirement, right? So some people could be giving, or could be receiving, the option to retire early. It reminds me of the things that are going on in the world of job and employment, in the political landscape, with people who are getting bought out of their jobs. They're getting the option buy, to receive a buyout. So there may be more of that taking place. But it could also that people are just making the decision to kind of make an exit. Because in this regard, this is also a career card. I talked about retirement, but this could be about career overall. So we have job and employment and career. So it could be like some people are making career changes. The world and 13 career changes. And again, then this would be the focus. If you're making a career change, what do you want to focus on? You want to focus on your talent, your skill, your ability, transferable skills. Right? It could be somebody who is self-employed. This would be for you self-employed entrepreneurs out there. You could be potentially wanting to look at your audience, your market. This could be either, the planet Earth or the globe could represent either national, like if you were local, this would be a nod to go national. If you are national, this would be going international. This would be like a global market, global audience, people all around the world. I, as a card reader, because this is a nod for me personally about card reading, because there's all these playing cards around the magician. Then what happened was in 2020, because of the pandemic, I went from seeing people face to face or personally to doing all my consults over Zoom. And with that, I was able to reach a wider audience, and I now have clients all over the world. It amazes me to say that. It's like I'm in awe of that. I'm like, oh, I almost can't believe it, right? That's just for me, and that's a nice way of keeping myself humble and keeping my ego in check. But I do have people that I have consulted with all over the world, and so I'm just saying that for some people that may be some changes they're making within their own self-employment ventures, right? But again, even if you're going to do that, then also to come back to this, it could be about how you market yourself, how you promote yourself, how you advertise what it is that you do, and how you do it. And also, too, the magician can be about specialties and being a specialist, right? So you want to be a specialist and not a generalist, right, with this card. Right? So now the world could also be about the planet itself. So this could be about, the globe, something global, something worldly, something that affects a lot of people on the planet at the same time, right? So this would be, maybe like global changes, planetary changes, changes that are going to affect the world at large, those kinds of things as well. And this is also a card of exits, both of these as a combination. So these are cards of exits. So it could be like people, again, exiting job, employment, or maybe even entrepreneurial situations one way or the other, but changes along those lines as well. But like I said, the key with the world, it's about, the asking yourself higher level of awareness type questions, right? And that's a nod to the light at the top. For me, that's a nod to, if you're a chakra person, this would be a nod to the crown chakra, right? And so the crown chakra is all about, ahas, epiphanies, revelations, insights that kind of just like get downloaded into your consciousness, yeah? So that's why I went with the symbol of the light at the top of the planet, right? So in more New Age type circles, this could be about unity consciousness, global consciousness, messages that are universal in nature, right? That kind of thing. And so that would be a nice nod to the magician in an esoteric sense for people who are channelers, right? So this can be a card about channeling. So maybe channeling guides or entities from other star systems, yeah, the world, right? That's a little woo-woo, but there are people who are said to do that kind of work, or have that kind of ability or skill, that they are in contact. So this could be about getting those types of transmissions, quote unquote, right? So the other thing with the magician, and I talked about, esoteric wisdom, mystical wisdom, that kind of thing. Sometimes see two cards together the world is the spiritual practitioner card, and one of the arts and sciences it can talk about is the Akashic Records. So there may be a nod to somebody who reads the Akashic Records, right? Maybe expanding your practice. So that is the world. Again, I'm going to go with the more mundane aspect of it. It can be about the successful completion of a cycle or a chapter. So now let's move on to the next card. So the next card would be considered guidance or advice. And so I was just saying this to one of my clients that I worked with yesterday, which was Sunday afternoon. Had a lovely session with a woman. And I said to her that, when you are watching videos from readers or you are experiencing a reader, you kind of also are experiencing their belief and philosophy on cards and card reading, right? So my particular philosophy on cards that offer guidance or advice is that the cards are not the boss of you. They are not telling you what you need to do, should do, ought to do. Rather, they are offering suggestions for you to consider, to take into consideration, and then you get to act on them whether you choose to or not, meaning whether you want to or not, right? So here's the guidance being offered. And here we have the Ace of Clubs. Okay, so the suit of clubs for me in playing card cartomancy can represent, first and foremost, since I coming off the heels of the world card, this can be about something that affects the public or something that is social. That is one of the meanings for the suit of clubs overall. Also, too, it is also about work and business, right? So again, we have this idea about changes, big changes, major changes taking place in the world of job, employment, work, business, yeah? And with the potential that it's going to affect a number of people, not just like individuals, but like, maybe en masse or in masse, right? So there is that to consider. Now, this is known with the ace as the beginning stages of work. So this could be, beginning a new job, beginning a new business, the start of something new, but it's work related or business related, right? Now, another meaning of this card for me can represent paperwork. So this is about paperwork, documentation. I'm seeing with the world, if we go with the world being a travel card, there are issues right now being put forth about passports and visas and things like that. So this is about paperwork in that regard as well. If you are starting a business, this would be about your paperwork, your documentation at the start of your business. This could be like your papers that have to do with the founding or the start of your business, right? Like, and to give you an example, like I went from being a sole proprietor in my business to an LLC, so I had to have some paperwork noting that change. So it could be like something like that, that kind of establishes what your business is about, kind of thing, right? So there is that I'm seeing, but this is the beginning stages of work, business, something again having to do with the public or the social aspect of life. But it can also mean paperwork, and usually paperwork that is tied to the government. So it could be like something of a federal nature, state nature, that kind of thing. Again, with the business, like for the LLC conversion of my business, I had to file papers with the state that I'm in, right? So stuff like that. But that could also fit what I was talking about with the passports and the visas and things like that, right? So there may be changes with that as well. Changes with the whole travel aspect of life. So I'm taking a step back to see if there's anything else I want to say about the Ace of Clubs. That's pretty much it. So it could just be, in terms of guidance or advice, it would be on some level, depending on what aspect of life you are in and that resonates with you. The short gist of it is, getting your papers in order, right? And that could mean a whole bunch of different things, but it could also be too, like if you are facing the end of your current working situation, embarking on the next new search. Now, if that's the case, then that could be like, getting your CV or your resume, updated. Yeah. Okay. So now let's take a look at the last card. This would be the outcome card. And usually for me, again, philosophy of the reader is that I don't believe that the future is written in stone. I believe that the cards offer a potential, and then we get to agree or disagree with that path, or the path that's leading towards that outcome. Okay, so here we have the seven of diamonds. So we shifted from three majors to two of the minor arcana, or the playing cards here in this deck. And so usually playing cards would suggest that you have more control over life and how you handle it, versus when a number of majors come up, because this would represent there are elements that are beyond your control, other forces at work, other influences that are, outside of you, outside of your control, that kind of thing. All right, so now back to the outcome, the seven of diamonds. The first thing I noticed with the pair, we have a club from the suit of clubs. So that, remember, this is work, and also this could be about progress being made. Progress being made through work and effort, yeah? And then the diamond coming after that means that this is about reward, right? So it could be like whatever you are working on or putting some effort into, you will see some reward or some payoff. That's just from reading the emblems, a club and a diamond, right? But now, seven of diamonds. This is a card about investment. So this is about the investment of your time, your energy, and your resources. And it asks the question, are you getting a return on that investment? In business, this would be the ROI card, right? Return on investment, right? And then that would fit with that as well, because diamonds is also the suit of money, right? It represents the element earth. So this is the tangible, the concrete, the solid, the realistic aspects of life. It's about material concerns, yeah? But it's also about internally, what do we value? So I'm going to say this is about taking a look at what you are putting your time, energy, resources in, and are you getting the value? Are you reaping the harvest of that investment of your time, your energy, resources? Now, in a more intangible sense, because the seven is a spiritual number, right? It's a psychological number and a spiritual number. So this could be about personal insight, self-insight, personal awareness, but it's also a very mystical number. So we have that with the magician, remember, ace of spades, the order of the magi, esoteric wisdom and knowledge. We have that repeated with the seven. In this sense, this is a card of evaluation and assessment, right? But it's also known as the universal law of sowing and reaping. So I love the fact that it comes after an ace, right? Because this could represent the growth and development of new seeds, new intentions being planted, and then reaping the harvest of that. Now, this is also about spiritual energy. So somebody could be putting energy or more energy into their spiritual nature, their spiritual side, their spiritual growth and development. Again, with the magician holding the ace of spades and three major arcana cards, right? There could be great spiritual influences at work for some people. The seven is also a meditation number, so it could be people seeing the value of meditation, especially for those people who are maybe deemed a little more woo-woo. So I'm talking to my channelers, I'm talking to my magicians, talking to my witches out there who may be watching and resonating with those messages, right? It could be seeing the value of meditation, because one of the things, no matter what spiritual practice you undergo or undertake, meditation is always highly suggested, yeah? So it could be, seeing the value of developing a meditative practice, right? And then, of course, if this is about money, then this could be about investing money into something. And so this is where I put my disclaimer. I am not a financial planner or advisor. So that's all I'm going to say about that. But it could be like you getting advice about investments, or that you see an investment producing a harvest, right? You see a return on a particular investment, and that's in the literal financial sense, right? And the last thing I'll say about this card as I wrap up, this would be about energy, the suit of diamonds, energy, and then the seven is about improvement. So putting that together as a mashup, this would be about putting in the energy to improving a particular situation. And again, going to this, if you put the work and the effort into it, you will see some progress and you will be rewarded for your efforts. And on that note, I'm going to go ahead and end this week's Oracle Outlook video reading here. If you made it to this point in the video with me, I thank you so much for giving me the gift of your time. As I always say when I wrap up video readings, I know in this day and age you could have chosen to do lots of things with the time on your hands, and I'm so glad you were willing to gift some of that time to me and hold space with me. Again, James and Mitchell, wrapping up, signing off. And as I do, I will be holding space for us here, and I look forward to seeing you in this space when I conduct the next Oracle Outlook video reading. So until then, I hope you have a great day, and I hope you have a great week. Be well and take care.